All right, The Walking Dead episode, that was what, 13, right?
Sounds about right.
It was called Choke Point, I believe.
Choke Point?
Choke Point, like where, kind of like a strategy where you it's like where you force the enemy into like this one little choke point where you can, you know.
I thought that's where, like you hunch in and you choke it, and that's like the point right before she, passes out. Where
right,
you
where you have to let go.
Right,
because,
right.
You don't want to get charged with murder and sex.
No.
But I think that's what it was called. If I'm wrong, please correct me. It is, I'm still struggling from the daylight savings time and, of course, a terrible loss in basketball on Saturday night. So,
sorry to hear that.
But I'm going to tell you what, before we even do our introduction, I loved last night's episode.
It was great.
I loved it. Oh my gosh, I got so many good things to say about it. But for those of you that maybe just found us on the internet and you're not familiar with us, my name is Justin.
Oh, and mine's JP. That's my handle.
Cool fact, his name is actually Justin as well, but it would get really confusing when people were commenting or whatever, so we just stick to JP. But you went by JP pretty much your whole life, right?
Yeah, I mean, like high school, there's always, 3 or 4 other Justins.
Right.
So, yeah, just make
I always tell
easier.
my mom, thanks for naming me like super common.
Who are you telling?
But we are the Podcasting Dead, and we talk obviously about The Walking Dead. But if you're into podcast in general, make sure to consider subscribing, hitting the little bell so you get notifications. Give us a like, all that good stuff, because we do more than just The Walking Dead. Like so tomorrow, we've got current events. We talk about things, just stories we find on the internet that are current. And then on Wednesdays, we do a random ramblings where we just get on here and talk about it. And let me tell you, man, like last week's conversation was one of my favorite. It went from everywhere to JP's testicle issues all the way to exploring religions and things like that. It was a really deep podcast.
Yeah, man. Talked about the spiritual side of hallucinogens, which I have a fun story about for this coming Wednesday.
Oh, boy. I'm excited already. But, so we go all over the place. Thursday, we do a mail call podcast, which this Thursday, I'm using Filmora, which is new to me because we still got to go out and buy some software. The reason why we're on the fence is I've been considering getting a MacBook for a long time, and I don't want to buy the software and then go get a MacBook. But so either way, but the video got cut in half, so people didn't get the full mail call. So I do apologize about that. And we've got a paranormal series coming up. We're going to do like an 8-10 part series. We're going to talk to different people, even some listeners, about their paranormal experiences. So lots of fun stuff. But without further ado, let's dive into this episode.
Which, by the way, I think from this it says Checkpoint.
Checkpoint
was the name.
Yeah. Are you sure? Double check that real quick. Double check that, because I swear on the Talking Dead last night they said Choke Point, but
according to what it was, this io9.com or something.
I don't even.
TV
I've never
recap.
Never.
I'll look at another source. Well, anyway, let's continue. If I find out otherwise, we'll.
Oh, nope. The Walking Dead. This is from Forbes. The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 13 review, Choke Point.
Really?
Is best episode in ages. Hey, I hadn't even read anything, but apparently I'm not the only one that thinks.
Gizmodo, you were slipping.
Yeah, IMDb has it listed as Choke Point. So does TV Insider.
Yeah, it goes, you didn't even see it. Oh, man, was Checkpoint a lot of fun.
Vulture has it as Choke Point, so that site needs to get their schnitt together.
Yeah, apparently so.
But man, what a good episode. Let's just get right into, we try to stay in order, but let's just go to the scene everybody's talking about. Beta versus Daryl, man. That brawl did not disappoint.
Nah, man, it definitely went differently than I expected. I thought, Daryl was going to get his toddies kicked.
Right. Yeah. It was believable, too. Like, Daryl did get his ass handed to him there for a minute, but Daryl did what Daryl does, which is adapt and adjust. And what I like, I've always said The Walking Dead's fight scenes are hit or miss. Like, for instance, Rick and the governor, loved it. You know what I mean? I hated that the governor beat the crap out of Rick, but Rick had also been shot and was not had a messed up hand, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so Rick had some disadvantages, but I loved Rick versus the governor. Jesus and Morgan was a great fight, but they've also had some fights that I thought kind of sucked. Negan versus Rick in the house. Like, you've been waiting all this time for Rick to get his hands on Negan, and then it just looks kind of like a WWE fight, and Rick just kind of goes out the window and says, to hell with this, and runs away. You know what I mean? Like, so their fight scenes are hit or miss, but I'm going to tell you what, man. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Everything from Beta running into the room with a door as a shield to busting through the wall, man. I mean, I'm going to watch it again when I get home. Like, I very much enjoyed that.
It was terrific, dude. Catching an axe to the chest.
Right.
You know, Beta got stabbed.
Beta got stabbed, yeah. Because he didn't catch the axe to the chest. It was one of the whisperers.
Yeah. That was just random.
But, yeah, he got stabbed. And a lot of people, so we were wrong. We were wrong about two things, which I think a lot of people were thinking the same thing, so it's kind of a general consensus. But there are two things that we learned we're wrong about in this episode. Number one, we thought that's how Daryl's had these two matching knives that he's been using since the beginning of the season. We thought, okay, Beta's going to whoop his ass, take his knives, and that's how Beta, because in the comics, Beta has these two big knives, and that's kind of his signature thing. But we were wrong. He already had these wicked-ass knives, which as big as this guy is, those knives had to be humongous.
Yeah, it's almost like two swords.
I feel bad too. I thought Beta was because I like Ryan Hurst. I love Sons of Anarchy. I liked Outsiders. Remember the Titans. I've been a fan of everything he's been in pretty much. And I don't know why. I always knew he was a stockier guy. I never thought he was little, but I just thought he was like 6'2". So I didn't realize this dude's like 6'5". What a beast of a man. When you see him next to Daryl, you're like, okay, perfect. And I think he's killing it as Beta.
Oh, for sure.
Just 2 episodes in.
Best casting they've done so far.
Absolutely. I agree. I think that because, I mean, The Walking Dead's comic from page to screen casting can sometimes be like, what were they thinking? But then sometimes you see him in action. You're like, okay, so he doesn't look like the Governor looked in nothing like his comic counterpart. The Governor on the show was a big boy. I mean, he was tall. He was, I ain't gonna say stocky, but he was a husky guy. I mean, he was a thick dude. Definitely not somebody you want on top of you choking you. Not unless you're Andrea.
No.
Ayo. But he nothing like his comic counterpart. But then once you see him on the screen, you're like, okay, I kind of see why they went that route, because they must have saw him in casting him and like, dude, we like him so much, we got to make this work. But Beta looks like he does in the comics. He acts like he does in the comics. And if you watch any of Ryan Hurst took over The Walking Dead's Instagram yesterday, and it was freaking hilarious.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I was following it throughout the day, man. What a funny, fun guy. But loved that fight scene, man. And we got to give a shout out to another badass. Old Connie ain't taking no schnit, man. Donnie, as they've decided to call Daryl and Connie as a couple on the Talking Dead. But dude, what a badass. I mean, like when she kicked that drawer out or whatever, like, I mean, she definitely, her and Daryl, I could see why the team up between them makes sense. I mean, they're both rough and tumble. They're both, used to, I mean, she's been with a group, but they do well on their own, What a badass, though, man.
I'm telling you, man. Beta freaking seeming like Michael Myers, there's just no stopping him.
Well, I was going to say, too, for anyone that's played Resident Evil 2, the remake, did at any point did he remind you of Mr. X? Because, like, that's all I was thinking. I've been playing the Resident Evil 2 remake. I think I've seriously beat it like 7 times now. I've beat all the bonus content. I've beat it with Leon and Claire on assisted, standard, and I'm working on hardcore now. But did he remind you of Mr. X? And he like just comes busting through a wall and charging at Daryl? It's like I was just waiting for that Resident Evil 2 music to kick in, because whenever he comes in the game, shows up, you just hear this like boom, and then he starts marching at you. But what a great episode! And at no point did I feel bored this episode. I love that they went between different storylines. They are doing everything right this season.
Yeah, man, it was some pretty good action with the Kingdom crew.
I was gonna say the highwaymen, so that's another. So that brings me to the second thing. There's 2 things we were wrong on: Beta's knives and the highwaymen, because we saw in the trailer the leader of the highwaymen walking into the fair, and we thought that was somebody Alpha sent in, because we saw Jerry in the trailer looking at him real funny, like, who is this guy? But now we know. I like the highwaymen, man.
Yeah, man, they're pretty badass.
Carol coaxed them with a movie.
Yeah, that was great, right?
Which they're going to need. I hope that they didn't just bring them in just to, and slight spoilers from the comics here, but everybody's been talking about it, but just a little spoiler. But we know some people's heads are going to end up on spikes. I hope they didn't bring the highwaymen in just to make them. I mean, like, I'm liking new characters. You know what I mean? Like, Magnus group came in. I'm liking Luke, Magna. I'm liking Yumika. I'm liking all of them. They're all adding a lot to the show. And the highwaymen are cool because they're not in the comics, right? I don't remember the highwaymen.
To my knowledge.
Because we thought the symbols that we saw were the Whisperers. Because the Whisperers in the comics, they do kind of mark their territory at some point, and they, are very territorial. Like, stay out of our land and you'll have no trouble. but cross and we'll kill you. And so we just thought maybe like they were marking, but this is the highwaymen's territory. And I love that she won them over with a movie.
Yeah.
He's
yeah,
like,
I wonder what movie is going to be the first one they watch.
If they said if you looked on the list of demands they had for Ezekiel, one of the things was books, preferably fiction, not romance. Mm-hmm. So we know and that makes sense. That just shows how Carol's able to adapt to different situations. And it's like they were talking about on The Talking Dead. It's one thing I like about Carol is she's not just one mode. Like she's a savage killer if she needs to be, but she can adjust and be who she needs to be, which we saw when she first got to Alexandria. She's very good at figuring out who she needs to be depending on the situation.
Oh, yeah, man. Master chameleon.
Most definitely. But a great addition. I'm excited to see how I loved when they rolled up and saved Earl Sutton and his wife and the baby and everybody else.
Oh, yeah, man. They could definitely use the extra muscle right now.
They really could. They really could. And Henry, again, man, like just don't really care for Henry. I like Lydia.
Yeah, Lydia's all right, and Dog definitely got his teeth wet this episode.
I was like, please, let's. We killed the tiger, man. Let's not kill Dog. Let's let Dog last a little while.
I cannot handle seeing a dog ripped to pieces.
My girlfriend's the same way. Like she would cry way more over Dog getting ripped to pieces than she would Daryl getting ripped to pieces.
Yeah, and I mean Sheba or whatever. I mean that was a big CGI tiger. You know, I mean it was sad, but it wasn't like. Seeing a dog get ripped apart. Just don't do that to me.
And dogs are just the best. So.
Yeah. I've never had a pet tiger. So.
Well, man, you need to get one. I had one for a few years.
I've got my cat,
Good time.
But, doesn't look like a tiger.
Sarcasm for those that don't read it well. But yeah, so this episode definitely was again, man. I just can't say enough good things. I think season 9 could go down as one of the best seasons of The Walking Dead, and it's crazy to think that because Rick's only in 5 episodes, and we just a year ago were podcasting. I do love that though. I mean, we definitely didn't come up. We're not the Spoiling Dead or anything, but we had read where some people were saying Rick might leave, so we made a podcast about is Rick going to leave the show, and people were like, y'all are crazy like that. No, absolutely not. The show won't survive without Rick. And we said ourselves, there's no way The Walking Dead could survive without Rick, but they're proving us wrong.
Yeah, man, I've been seeing articles pop up about how they're going to reintroduce him into the series.
You called that too, though, because I remember you were like, I'm not saying, something to the effect of you were saying you wouldn't count him out of the show just yet. And I was like, well, they said it's his final season. And you're like, yeah, but other shows have done that with people to where they're like, oh, they're leaving for good. And then they just come back.
I mean, a lot of actors, they have movie deals pop up, and they think the grass is going to be greener on the other side. And then when that first movie or two flops, they're like, well,
right.
Going back to the flour mill, Pappy.
Going back.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, I'm trying to think, like Henry getting stabbed in the leg, I was kind of like, all right, go ahead and take him out.
Yeah.
It's bad. I don't know why I dislike Henry so bad, aside from the fact of that he just does everything that makes sense. It's like watching I really cannot stand the what are those movies where everybody crime's legal for 24. What are those movies?
What, The Purge?
The Purge. I've seen all 3 of them.
I haven't seen any of them.
I think they're some of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. The second one was okay. The first and the third one are absolute garbage. And in the first one, it made me so mad because it's like the decisions this guy makes, any other human being with half of normal intelligence would have been like, I'm not going to do that because that's. And they would, it's so bad. But and Henry kind of falls in that category of just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And then I love that, like, poor Carol, right? Like, she's like, where's Henry? And then Henry's off with Daryl, and they're going to go find new land. Daryl's like, it's a whole world out there.
Yeah, man. What's going on with that? Daryl's going to just, like, start a little cult or something? I don't know.
We're not the Whisperers. We're the Yellers.
Yeah, man. I don't know about all that.
It's like instead of zombie skin, he finally takes a shower, and they dress all nice. We yell.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but the Whisperers whisper, so this is the opposite. But, yeah, man, what are some of the highlights for you on this episode?
Oh, boy.
You actually got to watch it last night.
Yeah,
usually
man,
JP has to catch him in the morning.
It's weird for me because I'm used to like watching it and then immediately podcasting, so I'm kind of trying to scrape together everything that happened.
Welcome to my hell.
Yeah, man. It's what did happen. Like the highwaymen are badass. You think?
Well, they almost all died too.
Yeah. I was gonna say you think they're going to be a bunch of twats, but
I love the mannequin thing they had going on. I thought that was really cool, standing amongst a crowd of mannequins and you don't really, in the low light. I thought that was a cool little touch.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. Good stuff all around.
King Ezekiel was just ready to wipe him out. So was Jerry. I love Jerry, man. Please, Walking Dead writers, you have time to change it if that's what you're going to do. Don't let Jerry die in the big finale of this season, please. I like Jerry. I want more time with Jerry.
Me too.
It's like Jerry wants his sword back. But yeah, King Ezekiel was ready to go savage on him, man. I guess for him, too, this was kind of like a flashback, almost, I don't want to say PTSD, but somewhat PTSD-ish of like the, of the Negan thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, he's trying to create peace and unity amongst communities and help his own, which is kind of suffering right now. And then here comes a group very similar to what Negan was doing, like, hey, meet our demands and give us what we want, or, essentially they didn't straight up threaten their lives, but they more or less were like, nobody's going to be able to pass. And so for him, it kind of was just going back to the Negan thing. So he's like, we just got to do what we did with the Saviors, wise up and wipe them out and be done with them.
Yeah, man. Ezekiel's a lot like Carol in that respect, I mean, Carol was abused by her husband for so many years, and when she finally got out from under it, she just went straight up Rambo, and Ezekiel was abused by Negan for the Saviors for so long, and now he's just tired of the abuse, and he's ready to go, like you said, go savage.
Doesn't want to fall back into that same routine of being another group's bitch, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because he's just kind of like, we've been here before, we've done this, we're not doing it again. It never, this never ends. But I like the Highwaymen, man. I'm glad. Now I'm really interested to see the fair, which we're not going to see. I think next week's episode is going to be that flashback. I do think we're going to get some present time from the scenes we've seen. But I think next week's episode is going to be the flashback that people are talking about, maybe explaining the exes or whatever. Because when we see in the preview, we see Michonne yelling for Judith. And maybe I didn't see it but once, but it looked like her hair was her regular hairstyle, not this new hairstyle she's got, which to me says it might be a flashback. She's wearing kind of that different shirt she wore back then, like the brownish, whitish, kind of dirty color. I don't know exactly what color that was, but whereas now she's got like that blue shirt. It's kind of her new style. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how it's going to happen because, again, comic spoilers, give us like 2 minutes and come back if you haven't read the comics yet. But, in the comics, we know that Alpha goes into the fair and poses as like this new person that's like, oh, I'm new to the communities. I don't know anybody. And then as a result, some really bad stuff happens. But everybody at the hilltop knows what she looks like now. So she could get into the kingdom. I don't think the kingdom knows what she looks like. But we've got people from Alexandria that were at the hilltop that know what she looks like in the fair. So I'm wondering if Alpha is going to infiltrate the fair. I'm really curious to see how they're going to do that.
Yeah, man. Ooh, excuse me. That's going to be interesting.
JP's so excited, man. He's just dropping objects.
My phone around, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really, I don't know, man. I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out. But I'm trying to think, man. Like the emergency rations that Connie had, that was very smart. Because they had been in that building before, She had the little secret thing. That's where Daryl hit. I love, man, I'd really just want to stop and go back and watch that fight scene again.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
They said script-wise it was a 3-page fight scene, which is pretty big for a show like that to have 3 pages of fighting. And like I said, like Simon and Negan's fight, I mean, that was okay. It was whatever, but it just was kind of... I think they said they were going for like a brutal type thing, but anyone that's ever been in a fist fight knows that odds are you don't... Like, you know what I mean? Like, if fights happen fast, most people don't, I mean, unless they're just scared of each other, most people don't dance around each other and swing these big haymakers and duck and kind of like the old Western fights, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. So the Negan, and I know that regular fights really aren't that entertaining, which is why Hollywood has to Hollywood them up.
Yeah.
But I just felt like Negan and Simon's fight, it wasn't awful, but it wasn't the best they've offered in terms of fight scenes. Jesus and Morgan, obviously not as realistic unless you had 2 really skilled martial artists, but it was badass. But this fight scene, man, was awesome.
Yeah, man, it was intense when he had his throat down to the table saw. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because you got 2 guys too with big knives, so it's more understandable for them to kind of hang back for a second and be like, all right, I'm not rushing in just yet. I ain't trying to get slashed up.
Yeah, man, if Beta hadn't have been trying to figure out where Lydia was, he might have ended it right there and just drove Daryl's throat into that table saw and been done with it.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
I mean, he had him right there.
Oh yeah, I think definitely. Definitely Beta could have had that fight if he didn't have other things on his mind. Mm-hmm. But what a beast, man. Like I said, I just love when he come bursting through the wall and stuff.
Yeah.
Through Daryl through the wall, I should say. It was awesome, man. Like, it was just it's one of those things we knew was going to happen from the trailer. We've been looking forward to it, and then we finally got it, and it was freaking awesome. Because I thought Beta's introduction last week was a little meh. Like, he was awesome, but, they just had him catch Henry's stick and pull him out of a ditch, and you're like, man, this is a character that's like the arguably, I would say, because my girlfriend was asking me, again, kind of comic spoilers, but not huge. My girlfriend was asking me last night, because she didn't get that far into the comics, and she was like, who can beat Beta in a fist fight? I said, really thinking about it in the comics, nobody could straight up beat him. Negan probably got the best of him out of everybody, because they were fighting in the middle of like a battle, if I remember correctly, and then zombies started crowding in, and they ended up having to stop because of what was going on. But I think Negan's probably the one that gave Beta the best run for his money, because Jesus and Aaron, it took both of them to finish their fight with Beta. And then who else was it in the comics? Somebody else fought him, I think. I was just telling my girlfriend about it. Man, who else fought Beta in the comics? I thought it was one more. I thought there was like 3 fights, like Negan, Jesus and Aaron, and somebody else.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I have to go back and reread. But yeah, so Beta's a badass. I really want to see the Negan Beta fight, though.
I think it's going to come. They've got to do that, man.
We got to see Daryl and Beta fight, which was awesome. I'm very satisfied with it, and I love it. But I want to see Negan because again, man, we saw with Simon that Negan is somewhat of a badass. He's a scrappier dude than I would have thought. He just seemed like all talk. Like he really couldn't back himself up if he didn't have a crowd of people bending to his will to outnumber you and force you. But we saw with Simon and other times he can throw down.
Yeah.
So I want to see him and Beta go at it. Like, that's got to happen.
Oh, it's going to happen, man. It's going to happen.
But last night, a lot of people apparently were tweeting that the only thing that could have made that fight scene better is if somehow Negan would have just come hauling ass in there and, started throwing down with Beta. But
it's bound to happen, man. Whisper War is far from over.
Oh, yeah, it's really just beginning. And my girlfriend was like, wow, they killed him off quick when Beta. I was like, hey, there's no way he's dead. Yeah, if they killed him off that quick, what a waste of a character.
Yeah. Really, they're not even at war yet,
Mm-mm. So. This is kind of the beginnings. This is the situations that are, because, really, what's going to happen if it plays out like the comics after the fair, that's what's going to really start the war. It's like the official beginning of the Whisperer War. But we didn't get to see Alpha any this episode, did we?
Did we? I don't think so, now that you mention it.
What do you think of Alpha? We've talked about it before, but what do you think of Samantha Morton as Alpha?
She definitely looks the part. Sometimes that, deep Southern drawl can get on my nerves a little bit.
That's my thing. Yeah, I think it's a shame because I think she's playing the role. I think she looks the part. I think that she's got all the mannerisms. Like she plays that character excellently. I just think that accent is a little bit too forced.
Yeah, man. It's like they got rid of Jadis and they're like, okay, we need a creepy looking, annoying sounding woman, so
right.
With a tough exterior.
It's almost like Doc Holliday.
Yeah, almost.
Like Tombstone.
Yeah.
But I again, one of my favorite lines this season is "wrong answer." Like I do love the way she delivered that. I thought it was awesome. Well, at least give us, and we don't know exactly, I guess, where she's from. I don't think, but at least like maybe show us she's from the swamps or something to justify that, because I feel like that's the most common complaint I hear from people is, yeah, I like her, but like all of my friends have been like, yeah, I like this Alpha chick, but I'm going to tell you the accent kind of throws me off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it does sound a little bit forced, but then again, remember Rick's accent sometimes was a little forced, but we grew to love him.
Yeah. It's like I said, man, like if you want a Southern accent, hire a freaking Southern actor,
Mm-hmm.
what's so bad about that?
Have Matthew McConaughey be Alpha? All right.
Yeah, why not?
Wrong answer.
Why not?
But overall, man, I just, again, it sounds like we're kissing the show's ass this season, but I have just not been, and it's sad because I was looking more forward to Negan's introduction than I was the Whisperers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, Negan was the ultimate baddie that I wanted to see on screen, and while I think that Jeffrey Dean Morgan does a great job, and I definitely like Negan on the show, I think that we've said many times season 7 and 8 were handled very poorly. Again, that should have been condensed to one season. First half of the season is Rick and them getting, just overpowered and submitting to Negan. The mid-season finale, maybe after Spencer got killed, is when, Rick and the group just decide this is it. Like, I'm done. Like, we're going to fight back. And then the second half should have been leading up to the end of All Out War.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, man, season 9's doing, in my mind, everything right. Like I've looked more forward and seem to enjoy the episodes, and I think partly too, it's not spending too much time on one storyline.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the key that they were missing in the past episodes because they would just spend so much time on one plot line, and you're like, okay, that's cool, but what's happening back at so and so? Now you get those answers.
It's a nice balance.
But yeah, man. So I've talked enough. What do you think?
Man, I'm like right there with you, man. Solid episode, lots of good action. You know, I mean, Henry was in it, but not so much.
So
to make me want to
deducts a point for you, right?
Yeah, but like I said, it wasn't. You know, it wasn't so centered around Henry that I just.
He wasn't as Henry as he normally is.
Right.
And what a weird place for Lydia to be in. Like think about that. It's something you don't really hear people talk about. What a weird place for Lydia to be in. Like she knows that her mom's, you know, almost like sociopathic, and to her daughter's more of an object than like her actual daughter. And I mean, I get it. Her mom beats her. They live very savagely. But I mean, at the same time, this is all Lydia's known, and these are the people that have, you know, they've come for her twice. Mm-hmm. So you know, these are her people. And now she's with this whole new group, and aside from maybe the teenage hormones and her loving Henry, you know, it's like these are people she doesn't know at all, and she's caught in a battle between the two. I mean, it'd be like your family fighting your friends, you know what I mean? Like, what do you do in that situation? And at first, you know, they boarded her up and had her kind of hiding or whatever, and I mean, I imagine that's got to be a tough spot to be in. Yeah,
definitely not good, man. Nobody wants to be in the closet. Especially with the dog.
Oh man! By the way, did you see Saturday Night Live's? I won't digress too much here, but did you see Saturday Night Live's with Kenan Thompson where they did the spoof of the R. Kelly interview?
No, I haven't.
That was freaking hilarious,
man. I'm gonna have to check that out. No, I've been sunk into this show on Netflix, Afterlife, with Ricky Gervais. Great show. Just finished it last night.
Have it. What's it about?
It's very deep, very dark. A guy's wife dies of cancer, and you're just like every show opens up. He's watching. She made these videos for him on his laptop or whatever, and she's talking.
So it's not a comedy?
I mean, it's a dark comedy. Yeah, it's definitely a comedy, but it's very dark.
I'll say Ricky Gervais usually just does comedy, so it would be interesting to see him in a dramatic role.
Oh man, it is very dramatic, but it's also it's funny.
Yeah, it's
good, man. It's
Ricky Gervais don't hold back, man. He's one of those comedians that I will say has not submitted to any kind of PC right now.
Oh yeah, man. Afterlife, it's the first like new show I've really sunk my teeth into in a while, and
I need a new show to watch.
Yeah. It's good. Only 6 episodes, so
I caught up on Vikings, so now I'm kind of like lost. I'm like, I need something new to watch, but but yeah, I've just been watching movies on Netflix, horror movies primarily, and trying to find something new, man. But I'm like, wow, am I this? I mean, I need to do something more with my life because I scroll through and I'm like, seen it, sucked, seen it, didn't like it, seen it, loved it, seen it.
Telling you, man, Afterlife's good, and it's something you can like watch with your gal, and you both, there's something there for both of you, if you know.
Yeah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that is there anything else we need to cover? I mean, probably, I'm sure there is, but
we'll hit it later.
It's probably not the first time you said that, is it?
Oh, no, man.
I'm trying to think. I'm sorry if we left anything out. Like JP said, we both saw the episode last night. So, I mean, it's usually JP's seen it within 5 minutes of us podcasting. Right. So it's fresh on his mind, and he can bring up things if I didn't think about or whatever. But, I mean, we've talked about the highwaymen and the kingdom. We've talked about, obviously, the Beta Daryl thing. And now that Beta's been thrown down an elevator shaft, that boy looked mad.
Yeah, man.
He's going to be out for blood now, which he already was. But, I love it when he's like, your people don't mean anything to me. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just here for Lydia. And then Daryl throws him down the elevator shaft.
Yep. Now he's got to climb out of that sucker.
Oh, he'll get out.
That ain't going to be no fun.
He'll get out. But, yeah, so kudos to Ryan Hurst, man. He's absolutely killing it as Beta. One of the most, and for me, even more so than Alpha. For me, I was more... Just because Beta in the comics is just like, how is this going to work? I mean, Alpha is just a bald lady. I mean, you could find someone, but I was always interested in how they were going to introduce Beta. And I think both Alpha and Beta I've been very pleased with. I think Samantha Morton's a great actress. I think that, again, just the accent is a little bit much. But aside from that, she's creepy as hell. And she definitely seems to have read the comics and to understand Alpha's mindset. And that's something I do appreciate about her portrayal of Alpha is she definitely seems to understand that the showrunners were trying to make this new enemy creepy and different because we faced people time and time again, and people are just kind of like, and it's like, how do we take humans and make them creepy, almost on the same level as zombies. And so I think Samantha Morton's done a great job of understanding what they wanted out of this whole Whisperer saga and understanding what they wanted of Alpha. Again, my only complaint is just the accent is a little forced.
Yeah, man, they definitely hit the mark on everything else, but yeah, the accent is, I don't know.
But yeah, so very happy yet again. Another great episode of season 9. In my mind, man, season 9 might go down as one of the highest points of The Walking Dead. Like back in the day, I thought the prison era was like the highlight of The Walking Dead's, just run. Like that's where it was at its best. Everybody was tuned in. Everybody was talking. Everybody loved it. It was new and fresh, and it felt stale sometimes, and sometimes it was still awesome. But I think season 9, man, it's just my personal opinion. I think it is definitely one of the high points of the show.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Showing it's not done yet.
Marks.
But yeah, man, so let's put our hands under the table and rate this episode.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Out of 5 stars.
All
you
right,
ready?
Go.
You gave it 4, I gave it 4.5. Yeah,
man, I'll give it a solid 4.
Yeah, man, I thought it was a great episode.
4.25.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, good one.
Just shy of that 4.5.
Just shy.
But yeah, great episode. Everything about it was awesome. I can't say enough good stuff.
Yeah, man.
I very much enjoyed it. But don't forget, as we said, if you've enjoyed this and you stuck around through the whole thing, obviously we don't annoy you too bad. So maybe consider hitting the subscribe button, hit the little notification beside it so it'll send you a notification whenever we put up a new podcast. If you're listening on SoundCloud, how about hit that follow and like button or heart button or whatever it is. And yeah, also don't forget you can follow us on social media. For me, my name is the same on everything for Snapchat, Periscope, and Instagram, which I have not started using Periscope yet, but I promise it's going to happen. Once I start getting out and hiking more and camping and doing more out there stuff, I will start using Periscope.
Actually, I Periscoped on my Saturday morning show. I do the Saturday morning swap shop.
Yeah, that's fun. Nice. So mine is just I'm Justin Lloyd, and that's all lowercase, no apostrophes, no nothing. Just I'm Justin Lloyd. There's 2 L's in Lloyd. So I'm Justin Lloyd. That's Snapchat, Instagram, and Periscope. JP is J_Radsaw on Snapchat, and at JP Slim, all lowercase, on Periscope. Is that right?
Yep, sounds right to me.
So give us a follow. Hang out with us. And we will see you tomorrow for Current Events Tuesday.
Yeah, we sure will.
I'm Justin.
Oh, and I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.